Okay, I should have made a video a long time ago, but I'm really busy and I haven't made one, and that's no excuse, but here it is. So, I really want to teach like color theory, balayage, how to apply it, how to get the lift you want, how to mix your color, like all of that is coming. But I just feel like before we go there, this should be almost like well, not almost, it is going to be like what to say during your consultation. So essentially just like how to do a consult for whatever you're going for, because I find that probably 95% of what goes wrong during a color service, what the client doesn't like. So if a client calls back for like an adjustment, a redo, whatever terminology you use for that, we use adjustments. So during this video, I'm going to use adjustment. If a client calls back after their service and says they need an adjustment, 95% of the time it can almost always be tracked back to consultation. Something during the consultation didn't go right. So whether that's maybe your terminology, or you didn't see a picture, or you used a term that you think a client would know, and they just agreed and they didn't ask you about it, and y'all had a different idea of what that term was, whatever the reason may be, that's normally something, that's normally one of the big reasons, is like we used a term they don't know, or we didn't see a picture, or they just said make me blonde and you said okay, got it, and you just start doing the color, or they come in and you don't consult, they just say, oh, let's do the same as always, and then you lose that client, like you don't see them again, and you just wonder why. Yeah, it mostly can almost always be traced back to the consultation. So, this video is going to be about consultation. How do we do them? Why do we do them? What do we say? What are some good little like tips and tricks to kind of get the result that we both want, get us on the same page? And I will say there are times whenever you just need to say no, because not all money is good money. Like, it doesn't matter. Sometimes I have found, honestly, that like the times that I am like, it's been kind of slow, I really need to make money right now, and I get booked for like a full highlight or balayage or something, and then I have the client who I should say no to. I used to just be like, I need the money, I'm doing it now. Even if I need money, it's been slow, and that's like the only appointment I have. If I do a consultation with them and I can just tell that we're not on the same page and it's not gonna, like, I can't give them what they want, or it's not gonna happen as quickly as they want, then I will say no. So you have to know how to say no as well. So anyways, let's get into kind of the consultation. So we'll start with greeting, consultation, what we talk about, and I'll give you little things here and there that you can use to guide you. Open-ended questions are really good, but okay. Okay, so we're going to start with greeting, and it is just how it sounds. Your client is at the salon, they've checked in, maybe they've grabbed a beverage, maybe they haven't. They're waiting, they're sitting in the waiting area waiting for you to come get them. You're not going to walk to the edge of the waiting area and just stand where everyone can see you and just shout your client's name across the room, or you just go, Jessica. You want to maybe ask the front desk who your guest is. They're going to remember, they'll be able to point them out. That's the person. You want to walk a little bit closer to them. Don't get right up like this. Just maybe like a few feet away. And you just say, hi, Jessica. And then you would extend your hand. I'm Tyler, nice to meet you. And then they might grab all their things, their purse, drink, whatever they have. If they don't have a drink, and your salon offers them maybe a snack, something, you just walk to the little beverage area. You say, Jessica, would you like something to drink? And you might tell her the things that you have to offer, or a snack if you have those. If she says no thank you, cool. Then you will walk beside her to your station, not in front of her. Don't walk in front of her and have her follow you. Walk beside her. Talk with her as you're walking to your station. And not, so what are we doing today? Where are we, like, after you grab them from the waiting area, you're walking to your station. I'm like, how was your drive here? How's your morning going? Or how's your afternoon going? Or have you done anything else today? It's a nice day outside. Like, whatever you can think of, just to a little small talk on the way there. Just mostly I go with how was your drive here because I live in Austin and traffic is crazy. Anyways, so if they do have a lot of things with them, that's what I'll do. I'll walk them to my station first and let them set everything down. And if it's a first time guest, usually there's like a traveler is what we call them, but it's kind of just like a printout of your schedule. And on it, it will say if it's their first time or not most of the time. And if it is your client's first time, you say, is this your first time with us? And, they say yes. And then you're like, oh, well, let me give you a tour of our space. Because then they know where they are. At some point during your service, if they need to use the bathroom, or maybe before, then you've shown them where it is. And you're like, okay, anytime you need to use the restroom, you're welcome to come. So just so they're, and also comfortable in the space that you're in. And whenever you're like, okay, I'm going to have you grab a smock because we have a little changing room for smocks. And I wait until we're doing the color. So I do my consultation and then tell them the price and everything. And then I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to mix the color. And while I'm doing that, please feel free to use the restroom and grab a smock and meet me back at my station. Well, since you've given them a tour, they already know where the bathroom and the smocks are. So you don't have to worry about explaining it to them, pointing across the salon. So, okay, so once you've given them a tour, and they know where the smocks are and the bathrooms and everything, then maybe there's a station that's open beside yours, like an empty chair, or maybe you have a stool, something like that. I get eye to eye level with my client. I'm not going to stand over them like this, looking down on them. It's just kind of like it's kind of like you're establishing authority over them, and you don't want to be in that position. Like, you don't want to be above them looking down, because it's sort of like intimidating, even though you're not trying to be. Just that posture kind of sends that signal, and your client may say yes to something that you're suggesting that they don't necessarily want, or they're going to just agree with what you're saying because you're kind of like standing over them, like looking down like an angry parent or somebody, reprimanding them. And that's not how you want to make your client feel. So you want to get eye to eye level. So it would be more like, you're right. I wouldn't be like this. I'd be like here, eye to eye level. And then you have your consultation. So the way that I like to start the consultation is I'm just like, hi, we're going to use the name Jessica because that's what was in the top of my head. What are we doing today? What are we looking for? So let's just say for this consultation, Jessica wants a balayage. She says, oh, I want this, and maybe she doesn't even know the terminology for that, right? But she shows me a picture, and she says, I don't really want it to go all the way to the root because I like low maintenance. I don't want to have to come in every 6 weeks. I want to go a few months. I have a child. I travel for work. I don't have time to come back every 6 to 8 weeks. Like, I need more time. So I'm like, cool. To me, that's like balayage, which is also something I specialize in. So it's easy for me to like see what the technique is that they want, and easy to do because I do it a lot. So then I ask for pictures. I'm like, cool, that sounds great. Do you have any pictures, any inspiration pictures? And they find some pictures that they have found on Pinterest or Instagram or wherever. And as long as the client has a picture that is somebody with a natural color that's similar to theirs. So if she has dark hair like I do, well, this, and she finds someone with like a caramel blonde or like a copper or golden, something that is not super different from the natural color that she has, then I'm like, yes, cool, awesome, And also, since balayage is a technique, it's not necessarily like a look. I'm also looking at the technique that they are showing me. So if they show me if they show me a picture with ribbons, which is like bold, just like a bold, like highlight in one section, and not so like dispersed and weaved through, but like a bold ribbon. Then if they have another picture, which they normally do, they have like 2 to 3 pictures. If they show me another picture and it's not ribbons, if it's really like weaved and like really like natural looking and like weaved in, a really opposite look from the ribbons, then I'm like, okay, we have to pick one or the other. Like, I can't give you a really weaved in like natural look and a really bold ribbon, because those are 2 different looks, unless it's a picture with both of them the same thing. But anyways, normally that won't happen though. Once they find a look that they really like, if it's really woven in and weaved in and really natural looking and well blended, then that's what all their pictures are gonna be. And if they find something with like bold ribbons and they really like that look, usually that's what all their pictures are gonna be, which it kind of makes my job easy, because okay, I know the technique they're going for. So that's one thing I look at with pictures. I'm looking for the technique that's there, because sometimes I don't do the technique that they want. I know that I can't get them that look, or I just don't think that it will be like realistic for them, not technique wise, but now like color wise. If on the other hand, like going back to natural hair color, if my client has natural color like I do, and she wants like a platinum, like white blonde, I know that that's not going to happen. Also, I don't know if that would look the best, right? So I'm like, hey, sorry, I don't think that this is going to happen on your first visit. I'd be happy to do multiple visits on the first appointment. I do not think we're going to get there. And explain that to them, because they don't know. They don't know anything about hair. They just know that they see someone in a picture with it, and they think you can get them there just like that. Also, along with that, if somebody has like a natural level 7 hair and they want to be like a level 9, perfect, cool. If somebody has like a natural level 4 and they find a picture of somebody with natural level 7, explain to them why you're not going to be able to give them what the person in the picture has. It just doesn't lighten the same. They have so many more levels to lighten through to get to a level 9 than someone at a level 7. So that is a good time to bring out my little level finder. This is also a tool that I use in my consultations, and this is really good if you get into a situation like that where they find a natural level 7 with white hair and they're natural level 4 and they say they want the same result. This is a good time to have this handy and to explain to them what's going on here, because it has the exposed contributing pigment, and why you're not going to be able to get them there in the first try. So going along with this, also just kind of going through your consultation, when you have somebody who wants to do just natural, like gray coverage, not natural, but I mean like whenever their hair is just like white and they just want to do all over gray coverage. This is when you would use this as a level finder to find like what their natural level is. And one thing that I wanted to say with this is that when we're taught in school, even by some educators for companies, manufacturers, not manufacturers, but like distributors, that's what I mean. People who come to your salon and sell you the color, or maybe the people in the stores, I don't know, but I've heard it many times from many different people that you need to section the hair right here because it doesn't get any of the sun. So this is actually where you need to test it from because this is their natural level. The problem that I have with that is that the sun does lighten the stuff around the face and on top of the head, and you see that. I see that when I talk to someone. Everyone sees that. So if she's in a natural level 5 when you measure her here, but it's a natural level 6 when you do it here, color her hairline and the top of her hair with a 6. If that's what you see, if that's what the sun is doing, color it that way. It usually like gets darker around the hairline anyways because that hair is thinner, and the top of the hair, it usually looks lighter anyways. Like, why are we going to color it with a level 5 when it appears as a level 6? That's what they like. They like for it to look a little bit lighter. That's what they see. What the client sees is right. You might put a level 6 on them and they say it looks like a level 5, it's too dark. Then it looks like a level 5 and it's too dark. I mean, clients aren't going to use the terminology level 5, but when they say, I see this, even if you don't and you know that that's not what happened, the client sees what they see and they look at themselves all the time. If they say, I see this, then you say, you know what? If you see it, it's there. How do we adjust it? I don't like using the word fix. Don't use the word fix. If you finish a result and your client says, I want to change it, there's just something that I dislike about it, I want you to say, okay, I apologize for that, and I want the chance to adjust it. What do we need to do to adjust it? Anyways, I sort of got off on a rant, but going to your consultation, let's say that you have found pictures and you've talked them all through and you've both agreed on a service that you're going to do. You've talked about haircut, you've talked about toner, you've talked about the technique, everything that you're going to do color-wise and haircut-wise, and it's time to start the service. You need to talk about pricing. What I like to do is on my traveler, it's the little piece of paper that comes with us. It just has a list of their services, maybe previous formulas, any notes that I've put on their files, whatever is there. It has the service that they're getting done that day listed out, and next to them, I like to write the prices for each one. Things change, so if we add something or we decide not to do something, I either write it in or I cross it out if it's already there. So let's just say we book for a full balayage, a toner, and a haircut, which includes a style. Then with my balayage, I'm going to write the price there. Toner, I'm going to write the price. Haircut, write the price. And I'm going to add it all up. And then I'm going to write the total price. And if we add more extra color is how we do it. I'm going to write a little plus sign for that. And I'm going to explain to them what that plus sign is, and then I'm going to write it in parentheses underneath so that they know that the price that's written there is the starting price, but it will probably go higher if we have to use extra color for their service to get the result they want. And they see it written, and they agree to all that before we start the service. If they see it and they say, oh, I thought it was going to be cheaper, or like I just wasn't expecting to pay that much today, then if we book them for a full, we have a discussion about, okay, maybe we do a partial today, and this is how that service changes, and this is price-wise how it changes. And if not, then we talk about suggestions about how to do what we can today to work with their budget and get as close to the result as they want. When you're doing your consultation, don't touch your client. You set them down, you've shaken hands, you've given them the tour, everything, and they're in your chair, you're face to face with your consultation. And we have this habit of going behind our client and letting their hair down and rubbing all through it and feeling it and rubbing our hands through it and separating out their hair. And that's just immediately they sit down, we do it. Some people have a problem with that, even though they know that they're in a salon to get their hair done. It still kind of is like a shock. A lot of people have different sensitivities to touch, things like that. We don't know their past. You don't know what has happened. Don't just touch them. Even though they're there for you to touch them, literally it's in your job. You have to touch them to do their hair. Get their permission first. Nobody's ever going to tell you no. It's more just to let them know that now's the time that I'm going to touch your hair. This is whenever we start. So what I'll say is I finish the consultation. I'm like, all of that is great. It sounds really good. Now I want to look at your hair. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pull everything, just look at what you have now, what we're going to do, look at the length, like if we're doing a haircut, how much we're going to take off. So just let them know verbally, I'm about to touch your hair, basically. And they're always like, okay, cool, but now they're aware of it, they're expecting it, it doesn't come as a shock, they don't get startled. It's just, kind of letting someone know you're going to be in their space now, and it's just as a courtesy, and it helps you kind of appear more professional. So during your consultation, you really want to ask open-ended questions because you want them to talk about their hair, and you don't want one-word answers. So what I'm going to give you is kind of like questions that I ask during my own consultation, which you can kind of use as a guide. And anyways, I hope that they're helpful. But if I have a client who I have her booked for a balayage, I'm like, okay, these are the things I have you booked for. I might say I have you booked for a balayage and a haircut. Is that what we're doing today? And then they either say, yes, I want this look, or I have some pictures, or, however they respond. And I'm like, okay, cool, so tell me about your hair, like what was done to it last. Maybe I see you have some grown out color. When was the last time you got it done? They tell me. I might ask them, one really important question that I like to ask is, do you want to look like a blonde with the lowlights, or do you want to look like a brunette with highlights? Because that's going to tell me maybe how heavy of it, like a highlight or balayage, how small my sections will be. That'll guide me. How much blonde do they want me to put in, or how much of their natural do they want me to leave? Because I can either do a thinner or thicker section depending on how they want to look. If they want to look more blonde, I'm going to do a thinner section. If they want to look more brunette with highlights, then I'm going to do a thicker section. And also part of that is going to determine your technique or the thickness of your sections. Let's say you have someone with thick hair, It doesn't even necessarily have to be dark. It could be a level 7. But if you're going to do a balayage on them, that's just surface painting. And if they want to see more blonde, then you would do a thinner section on thick hair, because it's all gonna kind of like disappear into the thicker hair. So smaller sections are gonna give you more blonde that's gonna pop through. If it's somebody with fine or thin hair, then you might want to do a thicker section because you don't want to make it overly blonde. You still want that natural to help it pop. And if it's already thin, you need something first thick enough to paint on top of the section so it doesn't push through, but also so they have that to make your blonde pop and you can still see their natural. Because this is supposed to be a low maintenance look, not something that they want to come back and retouch every 8 or 10 weeks. What I see a lot with new stylists or people who just, like for me, for instance, people who are in salons where they were never an assistant, or they never really had like a mentor, like you just have to go straight to work like I did. I didn't have anyone to train me, I just went straight to the salon and started working. What I see a lot with new stylists or stylists like that is they use the swatches. They just bring out the whole swatch book and they just bring it to their client and say which one. When your client tells you they want a certain color, you bring the whole swatch book to your station, you show it to them. Don't do that. Don't bring out the swatch book. You know that what you use on their hair, maybe to tone with, is not what their hair is going to look like as a result of you using that toner. So let's just say this is what you want. This is what you want. And they're here, which is the exposed contributing pigment, and you want this. I know that I'm going to use a violet toner to neutralize it and get the natural look. If I show my client a violet toner, what are they going to say? Are you gonna turn my hair purple? I don't want purple hair. Now you've made them nervous and they're freaking out. They don't need to know. You don't have to tell your clients the science. Honestly, they don't care. They know that you can get their hair the color they want. They trust you to do that. There's no need to explain it to them. Don't bring the swatches out. They don't need to know. Bringing swatches out, you create confusion because you're bringing out this big swatch that has all these numbers. They don't know what it is. You're showing them many different things, and let's say that it's someone who wants to be blonde, and you bring them out like let's just say the violets, right? Then you have every shade of your violet shades there, and all the levels on that one swatch, and they're looking at all of them like, which one are you gonna make me? I don't like this. I don't want to be red. You show me that one that has red on it. Like, they just get fixated on it, and it kind of freaks them out, and then they lose like trust in you. That they don't understand why you have to do that, and they just don't trust you anymore. Like, you lose your credibility, and you bring out swatches and you just show them everything, and you try to explain the science to them. They don't get it. They're not gonna understand. They didn't go to school. Don't use the swatches. What I will say is, if you do want to use a swatch, use the swatch that is by itself. Maybe someone in your salon has swatched out a color, or it's like an individual swatch for like Pulp Riot or some color like that, where it's on a thing by itself. It's the only hair that's on that strand. It's one color by itself, individually on a swatch. Use those. Some of them are like on a little ring. Undo the ring, take the swatch off, take it with you. That's fine. You can use swatches. Just don't take a whole thing like this with different shades. This is a level finder. But let's just say I had a full swatch of every red that I have from 10 to 1. And these are my levels, and they were all reds. So you'd have like a level 10 red, a 9, an 8, a 7, a 6, and then different shades on top of that, a red brown, a violet red. Don't show them swatches like that because it's going to make them nervous. One individual swatch by itself, perfect. Use it. Going back to pricing. When you go over prices with your clients, don't discount anything because they say, oh, that's a little high, or I didn't think it was going to be that much, or I can't afford it. Okay, well, these are my prices. And also, during pricing, don't forget to do it. Don't just speed through your consultation, start your service, and completely forget the pricing. If it helps you, leave yourself a little post-it note somewhere. As you probably have seen, I've got them all over the place for many different things. They're really good to remind you. Whatever you need to do, if you need to write it down at the beginning of the day on your little traveler, whatever you do to keep track of that, write those things down somewhere if you have a hard time remembering to do it. You don't want your client to do a really good consultation with you. You figured out their consultation, you both are on the same page, you do an amazing service, you wow them, they're just so happy. They tell you things like, oh, this is the best my hair has ever looked, I love it, I can't believe you got me, no one's ever been able to do this before, all of these things, right? You take them to check out, they get the price that you forgot to tell them in the beginning because you were in such a hurry, and they're like, what? I didn't know it was going to be this much, nobody told me. At that moment, your manager, your front desk, whoever's there, has to pay them for what was quoted to them on the phone or before. If somebody says it starts at $240, but what you're charging them is $340, they don't understand why they're paying an extra $100. They weren't told. They were told the number $240. It doesn't matter that someone on the phone said starts at. They book the appointment, they come in, they were never told a different price than $240. They're paying $240. You just lost $100. You lost the credibility with your client because they think you're trying to pull something over on them. They're trying to get money out of them, whatever the case may be. Your front desk or your manager, your boss, whoever, they're pissed off because they lost $100 on that service. All of those things should have been talked about. That whole situation can be avoided. You have to remind yourself, you have to remember to do pricing. That's why I do it in the beginning. If I get the travelers, I get everything at the beginning of my day. I go to my station. If you have to print out your own price list and keep it at your station, tape it to the inside of a drawer, something, put it somewhere, if that will help you remember to do it. And take their little travelers at the beginning of every day, look at the services they're getting done, and write the price down on it, so that when you see that, when they come in, actually, it's already written down, and you just remember to show it to them. This is the price, and just make sure that you're both in agreement. No surprises. One thing that you can do is under-promise and over-deliver, and that's with your service. You make no promises. No promises with your services. Like, they know the price, and they know what to expect. So I know I said I was going to share some questions that I ask in my consultation. So, since I forgot to do that before, I'll ask them now. So some of the questions I ask are, just tell me what's going on with your hair. What is something that you love about your hair? They tell me, and then I say, what is something that you dislike? Or what is something that you feel like you always struggle with? And they will tell you. And what you need to be aware of is not everything that they do in their consultation, not everything that they dislike, not all the problems, like everything, they're not going to tell you. Like, I don't know, but for some reason, we just don't always want to verbalize how we feel about it. Maybe it's our first time and we don't want to, like, as a client, we don't want to scare a service provider. I don't know what it is. We don't want to seem like we're just this super picky person. I don't know. Some clients do, but a lot of clients, what I'll notice that they do is you gotta really pay attention to their body language and the things that they're doing while they're talking, because a client will be talking like this. I'll say, what is something that you just don't like about your hair? And they'll be like, well, sometimes it just gets really, like, and they're looking at themselves in the mirror, like, it just gets really, like, brassy, or, like, it doesn't blend really well. Like, sometimes it feels harsh, or, I just don't like the way that it looks right when I get it done. Like, it just doesn't blend good. And the whole time they're touching this, like, whatever they're saying, it doesn't matter what I just said, like, that's just an example. Whatever they're saying, they're always grabbing something and playing with it and talking about their color or their haircut. And they're usually, like, saying something they get frustrated with or that bothers them. And that's what I see a lot in here, maybe right in the front. And they'll be, like, looking at themselves in the mirror. What they're touching matters to them. So it's not only what they're telling you, it's the place that they're touching when they're talking about what they like, what they hate. Like, those things are just as important as what they're telling you. So if you see a client grabbing here, ask them what it is about that bothers you. Look at it, grab it yourself too, and ask them why that always bothers them. They're gonna tell you, but they're not going to tell you, this always bothers me. They're just grabbing at it. And because they're grabbing at it, it's something that they always notice and that really bothers them. So you need to address it. That's a really good thing to be aware of during your consultation. Notice how they're sitting. Notice what they're saying. Notice how their little inflections are, how their voice changes, if they are airing a frustration to you, if they're saying what they're saying also. If your client says, nobody ever gets my hair right, it's so hard, no one ever gets the color I want, that might be a client who you're like, well, what would you like to do? And they show you a picture and they're talking more about how something unrealistic, or how no one else has ever gotten it how they wanted it, or then maybe that's a client who you're like, I'm gonna keep having the consultation with, but maybe I might have to turn them away. I might have to say, and this is also just really good to know, if you get to that point where you have a consultation and you just find that the consultation just keeps going and going, which I have a rule for myself. If you're consulting with a client and you're about to start their service and you've been consulting with them for 15 minutes or more, then it's probably best just to say no. My rule for myself is, if I have a consultation with you for 15 minutes, we talk about what we're going to do for 15 whole minutes, and we still haven't made a decision by then, I will try to just say, I think we're miscommunicating. I just don't think that we are understanding each other. And what I think would be best is maybe I could help you find another stylist who can give you what you want, because I don't feel confident that I can achieve those results to your liking, and maybe it's just that there's some kind of disconnect in communication. But what I say is, I would be happy to refer you to one of my coworkers or maybe another salon. I can help you find a stylist who I think that you would communicate better with and who could probably achieve your result better. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. You have to know how to say no. You don't have to just be like, oh, like, this isn't working for us, like, and just give up and get angry. Because you also are the one who's guiding the conversation. And a lot of the times also, like, if it comes to the client seeing their hair and saying, I don't like it, and they start to get nervous or they start to get anxious and they're like complaining and they're getting a lot of like energy and, you know, they're getting jumpy and like not sitting still and they're nervous, you are the one who is kind of like in charge in that moment. So they're going to mimic your behavior. So if they're getting really like antsy and jumpy and kind of like talking really fast and like a little upset, they're gonna mimic what you do. So if you do that, if you mimic them first, everything's just gonna get heightened. So let's just say I'm your client, you bring me back to the chair, I'm like, oh no, this is so blonde, I didn't want this, I wanted like more golden, and this is really like, it's white, and I wanted more like a golden blonde, this is not what we talked about, this isn't what I wanted, oh no, like what are you gonna do? We've all had that client. And then you, as a stylist, you're like, no, this is what we talked about, this is what we talked about, you said you wanted this, and that's what I gave you, show me the picture we talked about. And then she's gonna come back, oh no it isn't, it's not, you know, and you're just arguing, and nothing is getting settled. You're just yelling at each other. Everyone is getting more mad and more anxious. It's just everything is stacking on top. It's too much. In that moment, if somebody starts doing that, you say, okay, I apologize. I understand that what you see, you're telling me is not what you wanted. How can we adjust it? What can we do to give you the result you want? What do we need to do? The client will tell you, this is what I wanted. You might say, okay, let me see a picture. You know, let me see your picture again. And then you look at their picture again. If a client, another really important thing to know during the consultation is like, if a client shows you multiple pictures color-wise, like not for the technique, but you decided on technique and now they're trying to find like a tone, especially for blondes, you really do want a picture. And if they're showing you pictures and they're like, here's my first picture, second, third, fourth, fifth, they're scrolling through all these pictures, at some point, if that keeps happening, you just really have to say, like, and I will say, okay, I'm confused about what you want. You have shown me 5 different pictures and they've all been different tones, and I can't do that on your head. I can't give you platinum and golden and like a neutral kind of sandy color. Like those things, it's not gonna work. So you have to figure out with the client how to get to one tone. Like, you two can talk about it together, you can find pictures and kind of try to use their verbiage. So if a client says, I really want a kind of like golden, like honey blonde, right? Or, you know, whatever terms they use. People really like to use food to describe hair because we all know what colors foods are. So I think that's what makes it like universal. But, you know, if a client says, I want a kind of like golden honey blonde, right? Well then, I would literally just type that in like a Google search or on Instagram or something, and show them those pictures. And then once you decide on a picture, make sure that you both are like, okay, this is our inspiration. Like, this is the picture that we're going for. What I find is really good is to take pictures of previous clients that you've done, or maybe like pictures you have on your Instagram, or if they find a picture on Instagram or Pinterest, whatever. Like, it's really good to have those saved with the formula saved somewhere. If you have to do screenshots, write it in a note, something like that. If they find it on social media of somebody else's client from somewhere else and they want the same thing, see if you can find the stylist who did it. And a lot of the times they have the formula in the caption or in the comments or in the reel that they created. Use those things, use it as a tool to find the toner. It's also, keep in mind that just because their toner is there doesn't mean that you're going to get the same result. You have to get the same lift. Maybe their hair is finer, maybe it's more coarse, maybe it's a natural level 7 and your client's a natural level 4, maybe their client's a 4 and yours is a 7. Like, a lot of different things affect your lift and your final result, so don't just take their formula and think that it's going to work perfectly for your client like it did for theirs. You might have to adjust something, but knowing what they used can help you formulate a similar look with a different formula for your client. So knowing, let's just say that the person used a 797, which in Wella is a level 7 cendre, or a soft violet, and then a brown. Yeah, so the tone of it is like a violet brown. Then you know what kind of lift you're gonna get, and you're like, okay, well, I used the level 7, and maybe they were like at a level 6, so they only had to lift a level. Maybe you're like at a level 4, so you might have to do a little bit more of like a 786 or a 716 or something. Put a little bit more like ash in there or something matte to tone out some of the warmth coming from a level 4 to a 7 that they didn't have to use, so that you kind of get more of the 7 from the color that you're using, and you're depositing that in there on top of a toned level 7 blonde and not exposed contributing pigment. You tone that, and then you put your level 797 on top of that. So that's just like some color theory. I'll get more into that in a different video. Hopefully this was really helpful. I know there are so many more things that we could talk about with consultation. I feel like these things are the most important things. If you do watch this and you have any questions, you want me to explain something more, you want certain videos on certain things, you want to see me do something that you're curious about and you don't want to try it yourself, if you want to, just anything that you have. If you have questions about this video, maybe you want me to explain something even more in depth, maybe you have a question about something that I didn't answer here, comment on this video. I'm on social media as Tyler Randall Hair. That's basically everywhere. My username is actually the first initial of my name for T. Randall is my last name, so you spell it like you'd spell candle. And then hair at the end. That's my Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Find me probably on Instagram is going to be the easiest place because that's where I usually spend the most time. I'm really responsive there. It's where I get a lot of notifications. So if you do have questions about something, you want to connect with me, find me there, send me a message there, give me like 24 to 48 hours to reply because I get a lot of messages. But yeah, comment here if you have something, if you want to know something more in depth that's going to be a little bit more like involved and, in terms of the response, or maybe you want to see something, message me, send me a comment here, and I'd be happy to help you. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. Please use it, save the video, share it, like whatever you need to do. It's here as a resource for you. Thanks for watching.